It's going to be Toxic Youth versus the Yacht Boys.
Yeah, and we've been waiting a long time for this one. This is the matchup that we saw all the time last year, and it's not the matchup we saw all the time this year. Instead, the shadow play coming out from the Yacht Boys, and I am sad.
Hey, good thing we talked about it, right?
Yeah,
So this is the shatter play, and you know exactly what to expect from this shatter play. And Toxic Youth going to charge on in there and get started, try to get a little bit of pressure out onto the Yacht Boys.
So one of the things that's changed in this matchup a little bit is, as you can see, Gelu Baba running that Evanesce. It's such a big cooldown, and we'll get the chance to talk about it in a second. But at the moment, we see not too much actually able to happen. I think Joe Fernandez got an excellent Blade Storm. They probably wanted to set up onto him there. We see the Hodge onto Swapixie. Not going to force too much. The Devouring Plague not doing any damage. The Fear comes out onto Botar, tremored out very quickly. Call of the Elements to reset that cooldown. No real cooldowns forced on the side of the Yacht Boys.
Yeah, really not too much pressure coming out, but as we're saying that, we do see quite a lot of damage being put onto the Priest, and Geli Baba going to pop the Icy Veins while Botar is caught into a silence, and that's going to force out the Shamanistic Rage on Swapsy, but he isn't stable yet. Botar finally getting out, trying to get some heals onto his Shaman.
So that could have been quite a scary situation for Toxic Youth. The Yacht Boys saved a lot of damage, and that silence was almost enough to take down Swapsy. He does trade out that Sham Rage in time, though. The Stormbolt now over onto Miley. This is the setup again from the Yacht Boys, that Deep Freeze into the full Ring of Frost. Evanesce means that cannot really be stopped. The Fear to follow it up with the Hodge to stop the Tremor. The preemptive Iron Bark, though, should mean he's okay. Actually, that was the Trinket from Botar, so the Yacht Boys doing a really good job of forcing cooldowns right now.
They definitely practice this comp. I'm very impressed by it, but by no means have they clinched up this match at all. We're seeing Toxic Youth put so much damage into both Geli and into the Priest.
Yeah, so this is the wings coming out from Miley. He really needs to keep his team stabilized right now, because if they can get this next offensive setup correct, then they can potentially take down Swapsy. He will have that Rage available in 5 seconds, so it doesn't look like they should be able to do that. He's going to have the Trinket and the Rage available. They're actually kind of kiting away a little bit. That was the recklessness from Joe Fernandez, so they respect that cooldown. Here comes the setup. Deep Freeze, Evanesce, Ring of Frost onto Botar. That's going to be traded out with the Sham Rage. Actually, Vilai deciding... I'm not sure what happened to his silence there. Maybe it got grounded, but unfortunately he wasn't able to silence Swapsy out of the horror and stop the Sham Rage. Kind of wasted maybe a small mistake on the side of the Yacht Boys.
Yeah, and Swapsy's Sham Rage does manage to keep him alive, and he's going to kind of chuck on through, get some damage onto this mage.
Yeah, I actually think, upon reflection, the fact that Vilai trinketed there suggests that Joe Fernandez probably mass reflected that silence, which is such a significant play by him. So that's excellent job by him, because that would have been the trinket from Swapsy. Instead, it's the trinket from Vilai. So well played by the big Joe man. Miley caught into a little bit of pressure right now. His mana is kind of the story of the game. He's down to 50%. The Fear to follow up the CC onto Botar. Can they get the sheep off that? Charged by Joe Fernandez. Looks like they should be able to stop this chain, and that was the first time that the Yacht Boys tried to go offensive without using Evanesce, and Toxic Youth punish it.
Yeah, and we are going to see that Iron Bark does get popped onto Swapsy, but you were talking about Joe Fernandez a little bit, and if you are a new viewer, he is a player to watch. He just comes up with these clutch plays back to back to back.
Yeah, and it's like you say once he gets lucky when he does it, but he just does it consistently. Every single game he's providing something like this. As you can see, his little gnome character running around just chasing Vilai right now. Another clean setup, potentially, but again, the mash reflects onto Vilai's silence once again from Joe Fernandez. He's just on point this game. The Fear to follow up onto Botar. Can they follow it up? Doesn't look like it. Gelu Baba just being tunneled down right now, and I'm not sure why Gelu Baba is not having these Evanesces available for the setup. Maybe he's having to use them defensively, as Miley or is struggling a lot. That wing's gonna run out now, and he wasn't able to top off his team, so Toxic Youth certainly starting to turn the tide.
Oh yeah, Miley Zor just in so much trouble here. He's trying to heal up as quick as he can, but it's just not enough. There's the Stormbolt from Joe.
Yeah, the Stormbolt comes out. Vilai's shield proc there as well, so he's not going to have that defensive cooldown. Miley really struggling to set up here. Actually, I'm not sure. They're swapping over onto Joe Fernandez. Looks like there wasn't a trinket available for him, so Botar trinkets instantly dispels him. Gets caught up into the resheep, though. The Iron Bark should be enough to survive. Mass Reflect also coming out from Joe Fernandez, just making sure that he's completely fine here. They do force that trinket out of Botar though, and this is one of the things Shadow likes to do. When they get the trinket from Botar, they might try and swap over to him with that Horrify, with the Hodge. We'll have to see if that's something that they look to as Joe Fernandez pops the Recklessness. He's looking to end this one. Miley's down to 15% mana, does not have the wings available. Stormbolt, of course, Gelu Baba is not playing Ice Block. He's in trouble, gets bopped Evernest defensively. They're actually saying up onto Botar. This could potentially be the kill. The Buckskin comes out. Mass reflect from Joe Fernandez does not reflect anything significant. Hodge comes out as well. The Sheeps onto Swapsy. Excellent CC chain. Are they going to be able to kill this? The offensive execution sentence. Silence. It's just no damage. And Gelu Baba might fall. Barely surviving that one. Botar mooks out. Gets the NS. Well played by him.
Yeah, Botar's still not out of this yet. His Iron Bark is about to come off of CD, and he does manage to stabilize, but that was a beautiful play by the Yacht Boys. Even though they were under pressure, they knew that was their time to attack. They found the window, and they looked to Botar to try to get the kill. And now moving forward, both teams are in a little bit of an awkward position, but Toxic Youth is going to find Yacht Boys right now and connect quite a bit of damage both onto Miley and to Villy.
Yeah, I just feel like that was the all-in play from the Yacht Boys. They had to get the kill there. I really like what Botar's doing right now. He knows they're going to go onto him, and maybe they can still get this one. The double fair comes out. Mass reflect. He mass reflects the Hodge. Joe Fernandez saves Botar. Is it going to be enough? He's down to 30%. Villi's in trouble. Down to 5%. The Ascendant's coming out. He should fall. He's down. Oh, he actually survives it. He was down to 5%. I thought he was certainly dead there. Joe Fernandez with the game-winning play here. There's no way the Yacht Boys get back from this one. Silence onto Botar. Devouring Plague. They're not going to be able to get the kill. He's just going to walk away. If that Hodge had landed on Botar, he was 100% dead.
He was definitely dead, and that's what we're saying about Joe Fernandez. Watch this guy during these matches. He's an absolute rock star, and now Toxic Youth just trying to find their win condition here, putting damage all across the board onto all members of the Yacht Boys, and it's just a matter of time.
This is actually quite a nice turnaround from the Yacht Boys, though. They get the Deep Freeze into the Ring of Frost on Botar. I think it might have broke to the apparitions from the previous swaps, so a little bit unfortunate for them. Oh no, he actually trinketed out of that one, so my mistake. They do force the trinket. That was a really nice setup from the Yacht Boys, and the thing was, I was saying they were making these all-in plays and that if they didn't get the kill, they should lose, but they haven't lost. They're still alive. Miley has his wings up for another 15 seconds, so his team should be reasonably stable. They have one more go to try and win this game. If they don't get it, though, like you say, they're probably just going to lose.
Yeah, I mean, Miley, he popped the wings, but at the same time, you need mana to heal. You really, that's how the game works, and we're probably going to see someone fall down soon, and there it is. It's going to be Toxic Youth taking this first game, and Joe Fernandez, oh man, he reflected so many spells, and his Storm Bolts also, they're a big thing to watch out for, because that gives them a massive amount of setup potential. That's really, when they're going to try to guarantee the kill, expect to see a Storm Bolt onto Miley. Yeah,
it's almost just one of those abilities that it's such a short cooldown, it has like kind of a multi-purpose. We do see Gelu Baba and Miley trying to fight this one out. They get the sheep onto Botar. I don't think it's going to matter too much. No damage available. Gelu Baba will fall here. Toxic Youth looking quite commanding, but the Yacht Boys, they bring out the Shadow Play, and they were so close to winning this game.
Yeah.
Like, Botar was 20% despite Joe Fernandez reflecting Hodge.
I'm really surprised that they didn't bring the RMD. I am really surprised that they didn't bring the RMD, but they've got quite a bit of practice in on the Shatter. Really quick, we are going to take a peek at the scoreboard.
Yeah, so actually surprisingly high amount of damage from the Shadow Play. You would expect the Turbo to kind of dominate that. Shadow Priests do a lot though. Villi and Gelu Baba are able to pump out a hell of a lot, as you can expect. The time in CC definitely favors the Yacht Boys. The Shadow Play every few seconds, they go for these setups with the Deep Freeze, or every 30 seconds roughly, give or take, with that Everness and the Ring of Frost. So they're definitely going to dominate the game on CC, which is why it's so surprising that Toxic Youth don't do more damage, because that's normally how these compositions would match against each other. The Shadow would just do less damage.
I'm really surprised about not picking RMD, though. What do you think the reason for them actually playing the Shatter is? Do you think it's just because they want to try it out, because they got so much practice in? Because in this matchup, I really liked RMD.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say, right? Because Toxic Youth last week, the reason we didn't see them in the top 8 is because ABC...
And right now, Toxic Youth sitting up by 1.
Yeah, representing that German flag. Of course, Germany didn't have so much luck in the football. Maybe they could have some luck in the WoW. Toxic Youth going to represent them. That is Joe Fernandez, Swapsy, and Botar. We expect, assuming the Turbo Cleave, as we see some map intros, glorious from our heroes at Star Ladder.
Oh man, look how big that map is. It's just always, when you come in from that angle, it really shows you just how massive that map is. So we're going to start off this game, and there it is. We are going to see an RMD from the Yacht Boys.
Yep, so we see that's the combat RMD. The rest of Druid's frame is a little bit off right now, but the big thing to watch there is the fact that Fessia is playing that combat spec. You wouldn't necessarily see that in North America. The sap comes out into Swap XC. He actually gets the preemptive Ghost Wolves on that, so it's going to reduce the time of the sap just a little bit. Not too significant, just a little thing to note. Gelu Baba casting those Frost Bolts, trying to build up some Icicles. He actually gets locked on Frost though, so not necessarily the cleanest opener from the Yacht Boys. Ironbark preemptively onto Swap XC. They're committing to this play anyways. The Adrenaline Rush and the Icy Veins, they force the Sham Rage as well as that Ironbark, so a lot of cooldowns forced out on the side of the Yacht Boys. They get the Trinket for the blind as well. Actually a pretty nice opener, but at the same time, Miley gets locked out on the Cyclone, has to Trinket, the Stormbolt blinks away, able to survive, but the Ascendants does force that Trinket, and they do quite a bit of damage to Gelu right now.
The Yacht Boys took so much in that opener. Look at Toxic Youth right now. A lot of cooldowns are not here, but this is a team that knows how to play in a scenario just like this, and now look at the damage coming in onto Thessia.
Yeah, the fear comes out from Joe Fernandez. He tried to preemptively get that fear on the setup because he saw Miley pushing in, but he didn't quite manage it. At the same time, Swapsy trinkets the kidney shot and stops the CC onto Botar. That is huge from Swapsy. If they had landed that CC onto Botar, that could have potentially been the game because, like you said, they forced so much on the last setup. So Swapsy coming up huge for his team there. Joe Fernandez with the recklessness, trying to counter pressure Thessia. He dropped quite low there. Miley was able to keep him alive. Of course, Miley had to push in for this play and now is retreating because his team has not been successful thanks to Swapsy.
Yeah, and we're already getting in that position in the game where the Toxic Youth is kind of sitting in a comfortable place. Shamanistic Rage back on the table, Ironbark back on the table. Major defensive cooldowns for this team that come up pretty quickly. But as we're saying that, Botar taking quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, Botar in a lot of trouble here, actually. This is the double pet. I can't remember exactly the image from the Rogue. I can't remember exactly the ability name, but most people know what it is by now. Botar took a lot of damage from that, but he read it so well. He was in bear form for the swap. He got his bike skin up instantly. He knew he was in trouble there, and the only reason he's really alive is because of that preempted bear form. If he had not done that, he probably would have died there. He does not have bike skin, does not have Trinket for the next 30 seconds, so that is an opening for the Yacht Boys potentially, but as you can see, Botar just kind of sitting back in bear form. They're going to swap it over onto Swaps here. Nice preemptive Ironbark coming out from Toxic Youth. They've just been playing so well. They actually have to overlap it with the Sham Rage though, so perhaps another opening for the Yacht Boys going forward.
Still a pretty good read, though. That deep is no longer something that they have to worry about.
Yep, they don't have to worry about the deep freeze for a little while. That's going to be up in 10 seconds. Thessia actually in a bit of trouble. He does have his Trinket, trades out the Trinket evasion onto that Mighty Bash. Swapsy getting sheeped up just a little bit here. The Yacht Boys kind of want to pause the game for a little bit, build up their health bars so they can go on this next offense. The fear coming out from Joe Fernandez, though. He says he's having none of that. The deep freeze, actually, it's the cheap shot, but he's caught in bear form. It doesn't mean... I don't think they actually have a follow-up to this because Ring of Frost was on cooldown, so the gouge on the Trinket from Botar, the blind, of course, was what he trinketed in that situation. I would have liked to see maybe something different coming out from the Yacht Boys there, because the fact Botar got that shift off and they didn't have the Ring of Frost available means the CC just wasn't there.
Yeah, and I mean, now they're in a position where they could go off. They have a lot of things that they could do with the right setup to get a lot of damage into Toxic Youth, but Toxic Youth has recovered. They're standing on both feet right now. Swapsy is going to get that Ironbark. That was a little bit preemptive, and now Joe Fernandez into the smoke bomb.
Yep, so Joe Fernandez is the swap target. They play around that Ironbark perfectly, a nice bait from them, but Joe Fernandez has his Trinket and he just feels completely confident to sit through that one. They really needed to force his Trinket with the smoke bomb. The full sheep onto Botar now, but Gelu Baba in a lot of trouble, blinks away, has to use that Ice Block Cold Snap. Well played by him to use that cooldown. Of course, if he hadn't used it, he would have died, so well played. Miley now caught, has to use the bark skin, does have his Trinket available, and actually a lot of pressure. Gelu might just go down. The Ascendance comes out late. He's kiting away desperately, that blazing speed, able to keep him alive for now, but they're just going to swap it over onto Thessia. The Yacht Boys are in full retreat. Look at them use this massive map. This is what we were talking about. It's so hard for Turbo to chase, but Toxic Youth are chasing, and Thessia and Gelu Baba are both in trouble at this point.
Yeah, we talk about why Tolvaron is such a great map for RMD, but Toxic Youth tries to say no, and they move into Kelly. They pull that second ice block so quickly, and there we go. The Stormbolt is on Miley there.
I can tell you, my mage would not have ice blocked there. It took so much damage, and he's still taking so much damage. The Cyclone gets locked by Miley into that full fear, gets trinketed barely in time. Gelu is just under so much pressure, and the Yacht Boys really don't have anything going for them. No defensive cooldowns really down on the side of Toxic Youth, and that's why they can be so offensive at this point. Miley caught into that full bash, Thessia in trouble. The kidney onto Botar, the vigilance from Joe Fernandez instantly to make sure that he's not in too much trouble, but he's actually taking damage through it. The bark skin as well coming out, a small overlap on the side of Toxic Youth, but they needed to make that decision, and actually Botar could be in a little bit of trouble going into future setups.
I really like that Stormbolt onto Thessia, trying to catch him a little bit out of position and just keep putting damage into him, but Thessia is going to manage to move back a little bit, but he is not topped off.
Yeah, he's definitely not. Miley is struggling so much, down to 20% mana. He's trying to dispel himself. He's looking for that drink right now, but can he really afford to do it? I think Thessia might just die. He's going for the drink, has to swap into bear form instantly though, gets caught out by the Stormbolt very quickly. Thessia in so much trouble.
Oh, there's recklessness. He's really trying to get Thessia down at this point. Thessia doing everything that he can to stay alive here.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate for Joe Fernandez there. He preemptively parried that kidney shot, but the kidney still went through, so well played by Thessia to get behind him to make sure that stun did land. But that peel is so important. The gouge now, just going to be Berserker Rage. They're really in full defensive mode. The combat readiness from Thessia, so he shouldn't be taking too much damage. The Yacht Boys might actually be able to sustain for a little bit here, but the Shadow Mode had to be used by Miley, so that's one less tool he can use to drink going forward.
It was interesting seeing them actually swap onto Gelly there. They were just putting so much damage into Thessia, just absolutely training him, but now we are going to see Swapsy taking quite a bit of pressure. Iron Bark getting used on him yet again.
Yeah, so another mistake coming out from the Yacht Boys, and this is what happens when you're so far behind. They overlapped the Blind and the Ring of Frost there, so they actually had a decent setup onto Swapsy, although the preemptive Iron Bark, like you say, coming out from Botar did negate a lot of that, and now Joe Fernandez taking some of the damage. Dampening does mean that the Turbo Cleave needs to be a little bit careful. They can play very offensive and get close to the kill, but Joe Fernandez or Swapsy can definitely die, and he does not have the trinket available on Botar.
Swapsy in the kidney. There's the deep. They may try to set up a kill here onto Swapsy. They're putting a lot of damage into him, but he still does have the Shamanistic Rage. He's being a little bit greedy here, but he does have to pop it in the very last seconds. Starting to get stabilized. Botar healing him up nice and easy. Yeah, Botar is a bear right now.
Yeah, Botar just did such a good job again there. He knew the Ring of Frost wasn't down, and all he had to do was shift the deep to make sure no real CC came out. And that's how come Swapsy tried to be greedy with his Sham Rage there. Of course, it wasn't really worth it. He ended up using it anyways, and Botar had to use the NS. So Toxic Youth trying to be greedy didn't pay off so well, but they are still alive, and that's the main thing. The Smoke Bomb actually coming out now, though, and there's no Sham Rage on the side, but at the same time, Gelu Baba forced into that Ice Block. Toxic Youth instantly shut down the play. Nothing really forced with that Smoke Bomb.
Yeah, Toxic Youth has done such a good job of when they're putting on a lot of pressure, they're just going to put damage into the Yacht Boys and shut them down that way.
Yeah, and Swapsy and Joe Fernandez both connecting onto Gelu Baba. You can tell it's desperation time when he's having to use those Icy Novas to kite away rather than on the offensive pushes. It means he's going to have less damage for his setups, and it's just so much harder for them to win this. Miley again tries to go for a drink, but Botar instantly blinks in, gets the Typhoon onto him, assures that he has 0 mana going forward. He gets caught into the Stormbot now, no trinket available. The combat readiness from Thessia, one of the annoying things about RMD is that they will live an incredibly long time, and the Yacht Boys are showing that right now, but at the same time, Toxic Youth are just doing such a good job of rotating, it doesn't look like they're dying anytime soon either.
I mean, Toxic Youth just really shining on this map, and this is going to be the hardest map for them in this matchup, and they're looking really good, and look at the damage that they're putting into Gelly right now.
Yep, the Iron Back and the NS have to come out to answer that, so that was Miley's kind of last remaining cooldowns. He does have that Heart of the Wild available now, though. The Recklessness coming out from Joe Fernandez, putting damage into Thessia. That's going to be cloaked and trinketed on that Stormbolt, so trading cooldowns quite efficiently, the Yacht Boys, but like we say, Miley's still low mana. I'm not entirely sure how he's keeping his team so stable with such little mana, but I can't imagine it's going to last that much longer.
I mean, he needs a chance to reset. If he can get that chance to reset, it's a completely different game, and we are going to see a setup onto Toxic Youth right now.
Yep, preemptive Iron Back again from Botar. He's just been on point with these. 5 seconds left on that Shamanistic Rage. We'll have to see if the Yacht Boys can cut through this cooldown. He melts the Cyclone coming out from Miley, so well played by him, but he gets caught into the DR Sheep. That's going to force the Vigilance out from Joe Fernandez, so maybe an opening for the Yacht Boys if they can get the blind onto Botar, get his trinket. They could do a really hard swap to him without that Vigilance, without that trinket available, but it's a lot of ifs and buts, and the but is whether they can survive this next kind of onslaught coming out from Toxic Youth.
Yeah, and now we're actually seeing Swapsy take quite a bit of damage through the Shamanistic Rage. They're looking to push through, but Botar doing everything he can to heal it up, but Swapsy staying around that 40-50% health mark. Now Thessia taking quite a bit of damage. He's going to get the Iron Bark from Miley.
So dampening hurts both teams, like we say. Miley is down to 2% mana, so it's definitely hurting him a lot. And this could potentially be the game, actually. Gelu Baba has a block in 15 seconds, but he's certainly not topped off. Heart of the Wild's going to expire from Miley. He trinkets out of that fear from Joe Fernandez. And the preemptive Iron Back once again onto Swapsy. So big plays from Botar. They're not even able to land the Ring of Frost. Joe Fernandez stops that as well. So heartbreaking stuff for the Yacht Boys right now. The Cyclone to follow up the gouge, so they do make the best of the situation. As the Icy Veins actually comes out from Gelu Baba here, this could be a lot of damage onto Swapsy. Can Botar keep him alive? There's no CC available for him. The Stormbolt comes out onto Miley. Swapsy in trouble, gets caught into that kidney shot. This could be game. Down to 20%. Do they have any answers? The rallying cry comes out. The full bash trinketed by Botar. Do they have the blind for him? I'm not sure they do. The killing spree comes out. The Ascendants to try keep himself alive. He gets caught into the full polymorph. Botar is in so much trouble. Swapsy kiting away with that shamanistic rage, but at the same time, the Yacht Boys are in so much trouble. The killing spree comes out. Will Joe Fernandez finish the job? Swapsy goes down. Is there a cross kill? The Stormbolt doesn't look like there's going to be. And the Yacht Boys, despite looking like they were struggling the entire game, they lived so long. Joe Fernandez still going for this kill though, down to 20%. The kidney shot just in time. That would have been the execute onto Thessia. They should be able to stabilize now. The cross CC coming out from the RMD, and somehow, some way, they win that game.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they were at in this game, that we actually thought that Toxic Youth was going to pull off a cross kill. Like, even after that kill, I really thought Joe was going to be able to pull it off onto Thessia. Looking at the damage board really quick, so much damage out of Swapsy.
Yeah, I need a second after that. I really thought that was going to end faster than that. But yeah, Swapsy with 14 million damage. That's double either DPS on the Yacht Boys, more than their entire combined damage. Joe Fernandez, of course, with 9 million as well. That's just such high numbers. It's amazing to me. And this is part of the thing about Tolveron Arena. It's like they should win when they're playing that well. Like they should be able to finalize a kill, but they couldn't just because the Yacht Boys had so much room to kite around, and that's the map advantage really playing in. If that had been Dalaran with the exact same game, fairly sure the Yacht Boys would have lost that one.
Oh yeah, 100%. But Toxic Youth looked really confident on that map.
They looked so good.
They looked really good, and now they're getting smaller maps for the rest of the series. So that does fare pretty well for them. They're actually going to get to choose the map next time, and then they're going to see the comp from the other squad.
Yeah, so Toxic Youth, they were very, like, we were wondering because we haven't seen them, because we didn't see them in Cup 1.
It is all knotted up, 1-1 Toxic Youth versus the Yacht Boys.
Yep, so Ruins of Lordaeron is the map choice for Toxic Youth. Pretty understandable, small map, able to connect on their targets just a little bit easier. Thessia, Gelibaba, we'll have to see if they can... The opener last game was actually pretty nice. They allowed Botar to get the Iron Bark off kind of deliberately, I feel like. And then they also forced the Sham Rage, so it meant that those two cooldowns were kind of overlapped. Another kind of meh opener from the Yacht Boys, but like we saw, it's just an opportunity for Gelibaba to build up those Frostbars, and now we see the setup. But unfortunately, the Ring of Frost misses onto Botar. That's such a bad way to start it off. The blind's just going to be trinketed. They get the Sham Rage, but the Iron Bark not having to use. So even though they made that mistake, they kind of get similar cooldowns to what they would expect to.
Yeah, actually, Swapsy just popped that Shamanistic Rage so early there. He's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to need to do this. May as well just do it now. And it does mitigate quite a bit of damage. And now we're going to see Joe hit Miley with that Stormbolt, and Toxic Youth going to look to find some damage of their own.
Yeah, I completely agree. Beautiful preemptive Iron Bark again from Botar. They get the Cyclone, they get the Cross CC here though, so he needs to be a bit careful. Joe actually Trinket Vigilancing as well. I'm not sure if that was needed, but I can respect the fact they did it. Thessia was on the killing spree, so that will have been his red buff as well. So it was a lot of damage coming out from the Yacht Boys. Botar actually getting caught into the sheep. I'm not too sure how that happened, but it looks like they're going to be okay to survive through that cooldown. The resheep, Gelibaba right taking so much damage. Yeah, like you say, the Blade Storm from Joe Fernandez. Actually, the kidneys to follow it up, so a really nice CC chain coming out from the Yacht Boys. Can they get the Cyclones to follow up onto Botar? Doesn't look like it. Miley just sitting back, having to use his Heart of the Wild to heal up Thessia. He's caught into the bash. He actually trinkets out of that one late. So Toxic Youth, they probably came out on top of that play. They forced the Heart of the Wild, which is quite a significant 6-minute cooldown. They get the trinket from Thessia, and they don't have any trinkets, but they have the Sham Rage and
yeah, they're just like an unrelenting force right now. The only thing that Miley has to deal with any more damage from them is going to be that Iron Bark. Swapsy now is going to have to pop his Shamanistic Rage yet again. Joe caught in the clone, and Botar now caught in a clone.
So this is Swapsy's time to live. They didn't have any trinkets. He had the Sham Rage, and he has that Ancestral Guidance, which is a self-healing cooldown for the Enhancement Shaman. And now that he's survived that setup, they do have Botar's Trinket coming up kind of soon, but there is definitely an opportunity for the Yacht Boys to win this, assuming that Thessia can stay alive, which he should be able to, although he's dropping quite low.
Wolves are out. Recklessness just got popped. Yeah, they do have the Iron Bark, though, so they can answer that. Wolves did get popped as well, though. Expect to see quite a bit of damage onto Gelly right now.
Yeah, it should be, but at the same time, the Yacht Boys should be looking to go offensive right now, but again, a preemptive parry coming out from Joe Fernandez, a preemptive Ironbark onto Swapsy just slows down the Yacht Boys, and now Botar has his trinket back. Gelu Baba, like you say, the triple fair from Joe Fernandez, gonna force that block out and shut down any offensive pressure from the Yacht Boys.
Yeah, so Gelly does have one ice block left. That's going to be a big factor for Toxic Youth, but now Toxic Youth putting damage into Thessia instead.
Yep, so Thessia has to respond to that, and he uses the combat readiness. That's going to be a nice damage reduction cooldown for him. The Sheeps coming up from Gelu Baba, he just wants to kind of slow down the game right now. He doesn't want Miley to have to expend any more of that mana. And this is the smoke bomb onto Joe Fernandez, instantly trinketed by both DPS. I'm not sure that both of them needed to actually make that play, so maybe a small overlap on the side of Toxic Youth, but they shouldn't get hurt too much for it because they do have a lot of other cooldowns available right now. Gelu Baba is going to take a lot of damage because both those DPS trinket of course, and he actually uses the Icy Veins just to peel himself here, peel Thessia a little bit, who didn't have that trinket for the bash.
This is Toxic Youth's map. They want to lock this up as quick as they can. They are not going to stop putting damage onto Thessia, but we are going to see Joe caught in the kidney. Now Swapsy having to take the Iron Bark while Botar's caught into that deep, and now Botar into the poly. The CC chain is very real, but there isn't much follow-up from the Yacht Boys after this setup.
Yeah, so that actually looked like a really nice setup from the Yacht Boys because they had the killing spree, they just forced double trinkets on the DPS, but ultimately just no damage came out. They got the Iron back onto Swapsy, they swapped onto Joe, got the full stun into the DR bash, and they just couldn't get anything done. And because of that, Thessia now taking a lot of damage. Gelu Baba, he's going to have to run away again, and if he's kiting like this, he doesn't have time to cast the frost spots, he doesn't have time to build up the icicles that he needs on these setups if he's going to kill this incredibly tanky composition.
Yeah, that pass push from the Yacht Boys really put Toxic Youth in a very advantageous position because they're about to have Wolves and they already have Thessia low. Look for Toxic Youth to try to set up something big here. Look at Thessia taking so much damage. Evasion is going to be popped, but is it going to be enough? They are not going to let up at all. Stormbolt onto Miley. Toxic Youth getting hungry for the kill.
This is so bad for the Yacht Boys. He had to trinket the charge stun there, and they had to deep Joe Fernandez. That means they have no real way of landing CC onto Bowtie unless they're going to swap him in the near future, which is just so hard because he's sitting on the cart with that bear form available. It just looks like Toxic Youth are pressing. They have so much damage. It's just like, again, this kidney shot comes out, but Deep Freeze isn't even available, so no CC coming out onto Bowtie. Swapsy's just fine.
Yeah, as Toxic Youth presses in each time, they are taking more and more for the Yacht Boys. Yacht Boys aren't able to find anything offensive or defensive. Now Thessia once again in the line of fire, and Gelly Baba isn't free of it at all either. What are Swapsy and Joe Fernandez going to look to do to get these two players down? They don't have many offensive cooldowns, but here we go. Recklessness about to come off, but Joe Fernandez caught into that kidney.
Yep, so the game plan for the Yacht Boys is similar to last game now. Like you've struggled a lot with your setups. As you can see, Toxic Youth have pretty much every single defensive cooldown available at this point. They are a wall which you're not going to kill in the near future, so the priority becomes survive. And can Thessia do that? The Iron Bark comes out, overlapped with that Vanish a little bit, and the DR stuns onto Joe Fernandez means no Cyclone's going to be able to follow that up. Actually, they do get the Sheep into the Cyclone, so well played by them. The preemptive Iron Bark from Botar once more, though. Trinket's out of that blind. I actually think that Trinket was a mistake, maybe, because he was in the orb, so he didn't necessarily have to Trinket out of that one.
Here's the recklessness.
Fine trade.
We do see the recklessness now, and one of the things that was favorable was the Iron Bark was popped before that recklessness, so this will do so much more, but still, Gelly and Thessia staying pretty healthy here.
Yeah, the Yacht Boys are just doing a really nice job of surviving, honestly. I'm really impressed by how Miley's playing this. He actually managed to sit down for a drink at some point there, so he's up to 80% mana. Gelu Baba taking a lot of damage. I'd like to maybe see him just kind of respect the damage and trade out a nice block, but he's not going to do so. He just kites away. They're swapping it now over onto Miley. Double connection here coming from those melee DPS. The bash onto Joe Fernandez, the swap onto Botar. This is going to be the smoke bomb. They want to assure that he cannot get the vigilance off. Joe Fernandez intervenes into the bomb, does get that vigilance, but it's late. Maybe it's not going to be enough. Botar down to 40%. He has the bark skin, but it's going to expire. He's in a lot of trouble here. He does have the NS. Just going to kite away. They do force the vigilance, but they're not going to get the kill.
I'm surprised that Botar managed to hold on to that NS there. Really clutch play by Joe, getting in there and getting that vigilance up. And now Thessia, once again, we've been saying it over and over again, just taking so much damage from Toxic Youth.
Yeah, this is the thing. Gelu Baba is playing such a defensive game. He's just kiting the entire game, which means he doesn't have the maximum damage for his setups, but he's really hard to hit, so Thessia is the main target. And Thessia is a rogue, so he has Feint, 30% damage reduction pretty much all the time. He has combat readiness vanishes. He has a lot of defensive cooldowns to rotate through, which is why it's so hard for the Yacht Boys there. You see another one, evasion, short cooldown. So Gelu Baba, every time they can connect him, they do get the most damage and they do force the most mana out of Miley, but they just can't do it very often, and Thessia therefore taking a lot of damage but always got a lot of cooldown.
Yeah, it's a good play by Gelly Baba to be playing so defensively, but at the same time, it's really hurting the setup potential. It's really hurting their chance of actually finding their win condition. Swapsy, once again, is going to take some damage here. He's going to pop the Shamanistic Rage, but Botar looks pretty comfortable.
Yeah, so this is the Ascendance coming out from Swapsy now. They need to get something done, and Miley actually got locked out on Cyclone there, so maybe getting punished a little bit for overextending. He's going to have to trade out that Heart of the Wild, so they need to get something done during this cooldown. Otherwise, once that cooldown expires, that's 25% healing for Miley. Once that's down, of course, the dampening is really going to feel and hurt for the Oppos.
Yeah, I mean, with the momentum that Toxic Youth has, too, moving into dampening, they're looking pretty strong. Swapsy, of course, does have quite a bit of damage on him at the moment, but Gelly is looking even more in the breach.
Yeah, I like that Cyclone from Miley. Swapsy is going to be more difficult to top off for Botar, and they don't really have any CC. They don't really have any answers right now. This is actually the killing spree coming out from Thessia. The Shine Rage isn't available. This could potentially be the game. The Rallying Cry comes out. Shine Rage is up now. He needs to press that ability on cooldown. He does do so. That Rallying Cry, though, is going to fall very, very shortly. Botar needs to do a good job of topping him off. The the NS is available now out of that Garrote, so he could use that cooldown should he decide to. Looks like he's trying to hold on to it a little bit. Maybe greedy, actually. He might not get the chance to get that cooldown off now. Gelly Baba pushing in to try get CC off the kidney shot. Joe Fernandez is on top of him, though, and shuts that down with the pummel.
That was just such a beautiful offensive Cyclone, but now Gelly is getting very focused here. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to follow up on the kill, though.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it, and Gelly Baba taking a lot of damage. The Iron Bark comes out. He does still have one Ice Block available, so he should be okay. And Thessia, he doesn't have his trigger for 2 seconds. He could go down here. The DR stun, he does fall. Wow! It's out of nowhere.
They finally pick up that kill.
Finally, they get him.
They very easily, I do want to just say, the Yacht Boys looked very good with that offensive Cyclone. With the Shamanistic Rage came off with like what? It was like 0.3 seconds. That like it came, oh, it was so close.
It's a similar, and just I want to take a second to look at the damage process on our screens. You can see Joe Fernandez and Swapsy essentially doing double the damage of the Yacht Boys. Again, if you look at Miley's healing, he does 18 million to 7 million. That's almost triple Botar's healing. So
absolutely insane.
Insane, yes.
Time in CC, though, what you would expect out of RMD, over 2 minutes on both of the offensive players.
Strategy coming out from the Yacht Boys, because whilst their setups aren't always the greatest, and like we said, their CC on the board is not that impressive, to be honest. Miley almost in as much CC as Botar is not a statistic you would necessarily expect. However, the way they're playing the game means that they can survive such a long time that they do create these opportunities later in the game when dampening starts stacking, and they almost killed Swapsy that game.
Yeah, and I mean, now going into Tiger's Peak, the Yacht Boys have a pretty good shot here. This is a map that definitely favors their comp much more than Turbo. So if they can maybe play like that, maybe in the late game they'll find a way to get that setup and find that kill, and now we're going to see the opening from the RMD.
Yep, so Joe Fernandez caught into the bash into the Cyclone, pretty standard again. Preemptive Ironbark and Preemptive Treants coming out from Botar into the Ring of Frost. I don't think Botar could really do more to keep Swapsy alive, and actually because of that, they're not going to have to use the Shine Rage.
Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, we've been seeing Swapsy pop his Sham Rage like almost preemptively in some of these openers because he just knows what to expect. He's trying to be greedy. He's trying to hold on to it. He's getting so low, and inevitably he has to pop it. So we're not going to see him hold on to the Sham Rage for too long. Now Botar is caught into the kidney, and they're continuing to pressure. The Yacht Boys looking really strong here. Thessia, once again, though, going to be the target for Toxic Youth.
Yeah, Toxic Youth, Botar is going to have a little job to do because 2 targets took damage to top himself off, but Joe Fernandez helps him out. He gets the double fair, and Thessia now taking the majority of the pressure. Combat readiness means he should be okay. The blind comes out, trinketed by Botar. So this is actually a situation where Botar does not have the trinket, he does not have the bark skin. If the Yacht Boys can set up a clean swap onto Botar, they could potentially go for the kill here. The smoke bomb was just used onto Swapsy because he didn't have that Shamanistic Rage, but unfortunately they didn't really have the damage to get that kill, but they still have this 20-second window on Botar.
Yeah, and I would be surprised if they didn't go for it. There's the kidney. They may be able to get him down here. This is the setup that you were talking about, but there is absolutely no follow-up. Toxic Youth able to shut down, but out of nowhere, a bunch of damage. There's the Garrote. Botar getting dangerously low here.
Yeah, so he uses the NS. That was Joe Fernandez saving the day once more. The Trinket Vigilance instantly, and you saw how much damage he took through that. So if he had
what
come
allowed them
1
to damage
second
spike
later,
like that?
Yeah, I don't even know how they were able to do that through the Vigilance. This is just RMD at max potential. Without Barkskin or Druid, it will just get sliced through like something that gets easily sliced through.
Like butter, right?
Like
Isn't
butter,
that,
yeah,
that's the
saying.
Slice through like butter.
but the vigilance from Joe Fernandez was like putting the crate around the butter. I can't remember exactly what you call it.
Like the butter box, right?
The butter
Isn't that
box,
what it's called?
exactly.
The
yeah.
butter
So
box.
Joe
Okay, now we're
Fernandez,
going
the
to see
butter box.
Toxic Youth refuse to be the butter box, and they're going to put as much damage into the Yacht Boys as they can. But a lot of counter pressure coming up. Swapsy is going to have to take this Iron Bark.
Yeah, so Toxic Youth, they've been a wool this entire series. The one game they lost took 10 minutes, and Thessia, dropping low once more, has to trade out that evasion. That was actually the killing spree from him as well, and he's in trouble through that evasion. Ironbark has to come out for that Stormbolt, of course. When you're in a stun, you can't really evasion things, because how do you dodge things when you're stunned?
Yeah, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So the Iron Bark is going to keep Thessia up there, but they did take that defensive cooldown, which is good for Toxic Youth. They want to keep taxing the Yacht Boys, get in, and just win with damage. On the other hand, the Yacht Boys want to set up a beautiful kill, and they're trying to do just that. We are going to see Swapsy in a bit of an offensive clone here.
Yeah, I really like that cycling from Miley. If they can get any CC onto Botar to follow up, it doesn't look like he gets the NS. He's going to top off Swapsy here. They do have the Shamanistic Rage still available. Ironbark coming up for Botar as well. Toxic Youth, again, in a very nice spot. But Miley, who did have low mana, is sitting down for a drink right now. And as you can see, he went from 20% to 80% mana. So that's really big for the Yacht Boys, who need to play this long game if they're going to win.
Yeah, if they're going to go into dampening, Miley's going to need the mana to actually get the heals off. Gelly taking quite a bit of damage, but Toxic Youth has kind of been in this position throughout the series where they just come out very strong. They manage to survive the setups, and they manage to put the Yacht Boys on their back foot, but the Yacht Boys are able to handle that quite well.
Yeah, and this is another setup from the Yacht Boys. The Icy Veins came out there. They're swapping onto Joe Fernandez. They forced his Trinket. Are they going to be able to force more? The Sheep's coming out onto Botar. They need to try follow it up with Cyclones if they can. The Blind comes out. That's going to be Trinketed. They actually get 2 Trinkets there in that setup with the Icy Veins. So really nice trade from the Yacht Boys. If they can maybe set up one more time onto Joe Fernandez with Thessia's offensive callings, which as you can see, the killing spree is coming up very soon, that could be a kill window for the Yacht Boys.
Yeah, we actually saw a really nice charge from Joe. He manages to pressure Miley quite a bit and forces Miley to move back. And that was a really nice play, and that allows them to get this continued pressure that they do have. Miley caught inside the Stormbolt, damage coming out onto Gelly, but here's the setup from the Yacht Boys, the Smoke Bomb coming down.
Yeah, that was the killing spree from Thessia. This could potentially be the game. The Garrote to prevent rallying cry, but the parry comes out. He does get the rally off eventually. Joe Fernandez still not out the woods. There's no follow-up onto Botar. Unfortunately, the double fear from Joe, able to keep himself alive. If Miley had got Cyclones onto Joe or Botar, that could have been so much trouble. And now, Joe Fernandez is the offensive beast. He has that recklessness available. The Ironbark means he's so confident going forward, but he doesn't really have a target to hit. Thessia with the Ironbark, Gelu Baba, they're going to charge after him, but not too much going. And the Toxic Youth, they do survive one more setup.
I'm surprised Swapsy actually decides to use the Wolves here at the last second, try to get a little bit more damage into Thessia, try to pressure out the NS maybe.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Toxic Youth are going for. I mean, for what the Yacht Boys were going for there. It looked like they were going for a setup onto Swapsy, but they didn't have any CC onto Joe Fernandez. He was just able to completely shut that one down. Now using the Blade Storm, making sure he has 100% uptime. That's going to force the combat readiness out of Thessia, so they're swapping it over onto Gelu Baba. Gelu Baba getting caught in a reflected sheet right now. They're not going to break that one just yet, and Miley not dispelling it either, so...
They keep trying to train onto Gelly, but Gelly, once again, he just keeps putting that space in. He's doing a very good job at kiting, and that's why they have to keep putting damage onto Thessia. They just can't hit anyone else. That's one of the problems with playing such a melee-driven comp. Yeah,
just look at the positioning right now. Miley's at the back, Gelu's right next to him. It's so difficult for the Yacht Boys to push, for Toxic Youth to push forward on that, because if they do, they're just going to eat CC, and they're moving away from Botar as well. Unfortunately, that Ring of Frost misses onto Botar. That would have been really nice. And Miley tried to maybe push him for some CC. Botar just pushes him away with that Typhoon, trinkets out of the blind, should be able to keep his team reasonably stable as we do enter dampening here.
And we talked about going into dampening. Miley really wanted to have as much mana as possible. He got that drink at one point, got himself back up to 80%, but we are finding Miley at about 30% mana right now. Toxic Youth doing what they can do to keep the pressure on and try to tax Miley's mana. And now Gelly taking damage, which is going to do just that, but Swapsy caught in the kidney.
Yeah, like you say, mana is definitely one of those big themes for Miley, but he actually sat down for another drink. He didn't get too much there, and actually he might get punished for this one. The fear coming out from Joe Fernandez. This should be the block. He does block out, and unfortunately, Thessia using the killing spree at the same time. Maybe a missed communication on the side of the Yacht Boys. It would be really nice to save that for a time when Gelu Baba can be offensive, and he's actually in a lot of trouble right now. The kidney's going to shut down Swapsy. I think like he does have that Ascendance coming up very, very shortly. And here's the trinket from Swapsy. He really wants to get offensive. Hyperthermia, of course, up on Gelubaba, but Thessia also dropping low. The Ascendance still hasn't been popped from Swapsy. This could be a huge one if he does able to connect to Gelubaba, and here it comes.
Yeah, they're getting very close to Gelly. Gelly tries to pop the Icy Veins to save himself, but it doesn't look like Miley's going to be able to heal him out of this one, taking so much damage.
Yep, the clean connection. They should force the second ice block out of Gelu. Can they do it? The bash onto Thessia. Maybe they swap over onto him. Doesn't look like too much damage coming out. He's going to be able to get that feint up, reduce the damage he takes, and Gelu reflects a sheep onto himself. He should be fine as well. Miley not using too much mana in that exchange, and no real defensive cooldowns traded from the Yacht Boys.
Gelly once again managing to find space. Swapsy and Joe struggling to find a way to close, but yet again, Joe does manage to connect onto Gelly here. Swapsy trying to move in as well, and there it is. There's the blink. It's very hard to kind of stay on the mage and train him down.
Yeah, so at the same time, the Yacht Boys, they're trying to get another one of these clean setups, but Botar moves into the Ring of Frost, which means any CC Gelubaba would land onto him would just instantly break. He shadow melts the Cyclone from Miley. A small little overlap there as they do also pummel that one, so very insignificant overlap on the side of Toxic Youth. Miley taking a bit of damage in that Stormbot. Now they're swapping it back over onto Gelubaba, who, again, he blinks away. You can see that kind of defensive stand coming out of the Yacht Boys. Thessia has to trinket out of the bash as well. Actually caught in that charge stun. He's taking a bit of damage here. He doesn't have too many defensives. You can see evasions on cooldown, combat readiness was just used, and this could potentially be the kill. The kidney comes out. He should be okay. The preemptive iron back from Toxic Youth. So much going on in this matchup. That's why it's so exciting to watch, as the iron back again should keep Swapsy alive.
Yeah, Toxic Youth just doing a great job of swapping back and forth. As you can see, Miley getting dangerously low here. He does have the bark skin, but they're not letting up at all. Now Thessia being the one to take this damage. Joe Fernandez in his recklessness, and he gets right out of that sheep. Yeah,
Thessia might just go down here. He gets the vanish off the NS from Miley as well. Kind of desperation overlaps because he was very close to execute range there, 22% or so on Thessia. And again, they use the vanish just to survive. They peel, but now both the DPS are on stun DR, so they can't really set up. And even if they do deep freeze Botar right now, there's no way they're going to land CC off of it because the DPS will just stop him.
Yeah, that's one of the things about having to use those abilities defensively. And yeah, now we're going to see Joe does get caught in this clone, but we do have Swapsy. Okay, he is going to have to pop the Shamanistic Rage here. Definitely a smart play. I thought he was going to try to be greedy.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to try greed that one because, like we said, the defreeze was wasted onto Botar. He wasn't caught in CC, but he respects the fact that Yacht Boys have a lot of damage. That was the adrenaline rush there. Killing Spree is available, so if he is greedy, he will get punished for it. Swapsy now getting caught up in the sheeps. They forced the Sham Rage, which is the cooldown they wanted, but at the same time, Botar does have the iron back. He needs to get it off. He does get it off, and the defreeze unable to come out so far.
Yeah, we're in 30% dampening, so all of these setups are starting to just do so much damage. Seeing Iron Bark popped on both sides. Now it's on Gelly. Gelly still taking quite a bit of damage. Joe caught in the clone. That stops them just a little bit. Botar into that deep. Is he going to get caught into the Ring of Frost? He does. Damage coming on through, though. Miley stuck in the Stormbolt. Gelly getting very low. Swapsy may be able to finish this off.
Yeah, so Joe Fernandez, he came in for Toxic Youth there. This was his turn to use his defensive cooldown, and instantly Trinket Vigilance comes out. There was no Shine Rage, no Trinket on Botar, so definitely the right call from Toxic Youth. And the Shine Rage is now coming back. Botar's Trinket's also back in about 15 seconds. They do have defensive cooldowns, but dampening is starting to stack. This is Ascendance actually coming out from Swapsy. Hyperthermia on Gelubaba. He needs to get out of there. His Icy Veins actually casting Frost. He wants to get damaged, but Thessia's in so much trouble. This could be a repeat. The charge not on the Trinket. He's kiting away. He steps to Miley. Godlike surviving skills. He uses the blind onto Joe Fernandez. I can't believe he survived that one. Joe Fernandez charged his Trinket on 3% HP and he survived.
How on earth? How on earth did Thessia see that? That was absolutely beautiful. Thessia going to stay alive here. And now they're going to try to put some pressure into Toxic Youth, but Toxic Youth in such a commanding position. They want to finish what they started, putting the damage into Thessia.
Yeah, and it's actually the fact that they survived that might mean that they're in an okay position. Botar is completely out of mana. Joe Fernandez is struggling to connect right now, and if Miley can get this Cyclone onto him, they might actually take a small lead here. The DPS don't have any trinkets to break this. Shamanistic Rage forced a nice Cyclone from Miley, making sure no offensive pressure comes out from Toxic Youth, and his health can't be stabilized. So they kind of get away with forcing that one cooldown. There's still an ice block on Gelubaba. They definitely have defensives rotating for the Yacht Boys, and they're actually kind of coming back into this game.
All of these little drinks that Miley managed to take throughout the match are adding up. It's just so huge that look at his mana compared to Botar's. He's going to be able to last a little bit longer. And like you said, here's the setup coming in. Swapsy does get caught in the kidney, and he gets caught into the smoke bomb.
Yep, so the trinket comes out from Bowtie. I didn't actually see if he trinketed. It can't have been the blind, I think, actually. So maybe the blind will still be available, but he had to trinket there anyway. Swapsy's still in a lot of trouble. The rallying cry comes out, but there's no real damage reduction cooldown. He's in so much trouble. There's no way he actually heals this. Swapsy's going to fall. He does go down to the Yacht Boys. Miley's still in a bit of trouble. Potential for a cross kill, not even close to as much potential as in the last game. Joe Fernandez isn't going to be able to secure this one. Unfortunately, the Ironback is going to secure that. Such a close game. I cannot believe Thessia survived.
That's the replay that we need to see.
Replay, yes.
Absolutely bonkers. And now we're going to see it's knotted up yet again. Toxic Youth and the Yacht Boys 2-2. I'm going to say that Toxic Youth has a slight advantage going into the next game because they do get to pick the map, and we're probably going to see Dollar on Sewers. And we've just seen both of these teams play to the fullest potential of their composition, so the map being that much more important.
Yeah, I agree with that one for sure. And like the series is tied 2-2, like you say, Toxic Youth have the map choice, and this comes down to our questioning in the first game. They took the risk with the Shadow. They were very close to getting the game, but their RMGs just look so solid. They're not playing it perfectly by all means. There are a lot of setups where Toxic Youth are able to just kind of shut them down, but they're playing it good enough to be...
Got to see it a little bit. We talked about it quite a bit in the earlier games. We haven't had quite the opportunity to talk about it, but just clutch play after clutch play.
Yeah, he always seems to be there when he needs to be. When it's his turn to rotate the cooldowns, he's just so quick on it. No indecisiveness coming out of this man. As we do see them loading up Dalaran Arena as we expected, 2-2. This game decides it all.
Yeah, it decides it all. Of course, the team that does lose this doesn't get eliminated, but they have to go up against one of the best teams in the world.
Yep, I completely agree. Neither of those teams will want to be doing that. So the Yacht Boys will have to see how their opener is able to pan out. Joe Fernandez actually leaps and gets Gelu Baba out once again, so well played by him. Going to ensure that they don't have to worry too much about this SAP opener. The bash now coming out onto Joe Fernandez. Iron back onto Swapixie just before the deep freeze onto Botar, so another pretty standard opener. They get the Sham Rage, they get the Iron back. If they can blind Botar, they'll probably get the Trinket.
Toxic Youth managing to put out quite a bit of damage, though, in this opener where the RMD really should shine for most purposes, and we are seeing Swapsy taking quite a bit of damage, but really expect Toxic Youth to not let up this time around. They have the advantage on the map. It's nice and small. We're going to see Swapsy and Joe Fernandez being able to stay on their targets much better and also being able to swap more efficiently.
Yep, I agree. The small map definitely going to enable that. Actually, the Ascendants came out from Swapsy there, traded out for the combat readiness from Thessia. They're just kind of bashing each other. The main objective for Toxic Youth right now is to just delay the next setup as long as they possibly can. They don't have the Ironback or the Shamanistic Rage for 20 seconds, so if they can hold that 20 seconds, then they'll definitely be fine.
I mean, just look at the uptime that Joe's actually been able to have on Gelly. He's having so much more uptime on this mage because of the map, and that's just so much more damage, and it's going to allow them to delay the setups quite a bit.
Yeah, I completely agree, and then, like you say, the small map instantly paying off for them because that triple fear. On a bigger map, if Miley had been further away, that probably wouldn't have happened, but that just completely negated the setup, and they didn't have Ironbark or Shamrage for that, so that could have been potentially quite a big one for the Yacht Boys, but you didn't see anything happen because of Joe Fernandez. He didn't even have to trinket for that fear. Just perfect play.
Yeah, and oh my god, these swaps, they've just been nuts.
Yeah, I completely agree. Gelu Baba definitely feeling the brunt of those swaps right now. Down to 50%. He's pretty clean on hots right now, but he's pushing in, going for that offensive go. On to Swapsy. The Trinket Shamrage actually having to be traded out. He gets caught into the DR Kidney. Grounding Totem. He's just going to try keep Boat out of CC. Actually, the Groat just after the NS, a little unfortunate for Thessia. If he could have got that NS out the way, then they could have maintained this pressure. They still have quite a bit onto Swapsy. Looks like he should be okay. Hitting Thessia just a little bit. Honestly, not too much happening right now. The trinkets are starting to rotate for Toxic Youth. They still have the trinket vigilance should they require it. And the Yacht Boys have a lot of their defensives available.
Yeah, I mean, the Yacht Boys have been able to keep all these defensive. They are going to have to blow one now, as Gelly taking quite a bit of damage. But Toxic Youth needs to get even more aggressive, in my opinion, because as we move to dampening, I'm definitely going to favor the Yacht Boys just a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Joe Fernandez did pull off a nice play there. He blade stormed the bash. I thought he was going to Vigilance because of that, because we did see the smoke bomb come out from the Yacht Boys. Maybe they tried to bait it, but they didn't have too much damage. Joe Fernandez did not respect any damage that they would have had, did not pop that Vigilance, so not going to force too much here. The Yacht Boys, they're kind of pulling back. They recognize the fact that Toxic Youth have survived the onslaught for now. They have the Shamanistic Rage available. Joe Fernandez still has that Trinket Vigilance. Actually, the preemptive Ironbark coming out onto Swapsy. I'm not too sure. Thessia just stunning up Joe Fernandez twice, but they weren't able to get any follow-up onto that. Slightly unfortunate there. So that means no CC is going to come out onto Botar either. Maybe a slight lapse in CC from the Yacht Boys.
Yeah, they connect a little bit of damage onto Swapsy. He's still below 50% here. Botar is going to get caught into the deep, but he gets right out of that deep and heals up Swapsy back to full. Gelly using the Icy Veins here.
Yeah, so Toxic Youth instantly punished the Yacht Boys. Thessia used the Vanish, he got the double stun to Joe Fernandez, but of course it meant there was no CC available for him. He was able to stop Gelu Baba, and since Gelu Baba used the mobility to get to Botar in the first place, they're able to force the Ice Block now since he can't get away. And actually he's still in a bit of trouble. Blink now does come back up, he's able to kite away. We see that pretty standard positioning as Miley's actually sitting down for a drink. He needs to be a little careful. He's playing with Gelu's life just a little bit here since that Hypothermia is currently active. Thessia taking a little bit of damage, should be fine. Feint always active. We'll have to see how the Yacht Boys approach their next attack.
I do like that drink though. We see Gelly kind of move back a little bit, try to get good positioning, so we can really allow Miley to get the drink. But now Miley taking quite a bit of pressure. He's going to have to cast the Cyclone onto Joe.
Yep, so we did see the Cyclone come out onto Joe Fernandez, so it was Swapsy's job to make sure no CC landed there. He did trinket out of the stun to ensure that that was the case. Actually, a gouge follow up onto Botar. There's a lot of damage from Thessia. The red buff killing spree is going to force that Shamanistic Rage. The Ascendance actually, to answer it, the Fear comes out melded. Maybe that was actually melded by Miley. If that was the case, then that was an incredibly good play from him. That Ascendance maybe didn't achieve too much because of that play. Shamanistic Rage was traded. Now the preemptive Ironbark, beautiful play once again from Botar. He gets caught up into that sheep. Ironbark active. The Gift of the Naru also used by Swapsy. He should be okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to be okay here. And now Botar out of the sheep, going to start healing up Swapsy as much as he can. Swapsy taking so much damage.
Yeah, Swapsy's still taking a bit of damage. Botar is out of the CC though. And one of the themes from last game, of course, we talked about mana a lot. Botar does have a fair amount of mana, but he's certainly losing it right now because of all those drinks Miley has been able to get. It could be a story going into the late game, so certainly want to watch that. We see Botar just kind of sitting back. He wants to keep Swapsy pre-hotted. The Shamanistic Rage is up in 5 seconds. That's kind of what they're turtling for right now. Deep Freeze comes out. Are they going to be able to survive long enough? The Rov comes out. Actually, the Vigilance having to be traded out onto Swapsy because that Shamanistic Rage wasn't available. It is available now, but he doesn't want to have to overlap the cooldowns. Stormbolt onto Miley is going to deny the Cyclones following up, and they do trinket the blind, but he's still not using that Shamanistic Rage. They actually choose to use the Rally instead.
So greedy, but I kind of love it. I kind of love not using the Shamanistic Rage here. It's going to mess with the Yacht Boys setup. They're getting, and we're going to see Toxic Youth do quite a bit of damage to them right now. We're already 6% into dampening, so Toxic Youth wants to close it out before this mana actually becomes a factor.
Yeah, I completely agree, but they're going to struggle really hard to do that as the low Cyclone again. And actually a really nice play coming out from the Yacht Boys. They get the DR stun into the sheep on Botar. This could potentially be it. Shamanistic Rage, of course, was just used. No follow-up CC just yet onto Botar, but they get the Cyclone. He gets the Ironbark in between, though, unfortunately. Joe Fernandez fears Thessia full. That might have been the play that saved Swapsy here. He's going to be able to get stabilized thanks to that. Actually, a lot of damage onto Gelu. That's going to force the block.
Immediate turnaround. We saw the Recklessness get popped by Joe, and he manages to get that Ice Block out. Now we're going to see Gelly get hit by the Stormbolt. They're going to try to find even more damage, but Gelly going to try to return it with Icy Veins, going to try to hit Swapsy. If they can get Gelly down here in through this Ironbark, so much damage coming through, but Swapsy is on the front line, and he's going to go down. The Yacht Boys may be able to take this. Yeah, there's no potential for a cross kill here. There's definitely no potential. We saw it in one of the games, but that's a pretty convincing victory from the Yacht Boys. They look great.
Yeah, it was so close. I mean, it looked like the Yacht Boys were certainly going to get the kill there. The question was whether Toxic Youth could answer it. Actually, Gelu was in execute range for 1 second there with his Hypothermia active, so he couldn't Ice Block. But I think Joe Fernandez got novaed or maybe rooted by that Ironbark slightly out of range.
One thing to note on the damage dealt is Joe's a little bit low for what we expect to see from Joe, and that was on the smaller map where at the beginning of the game I was saying, oh, he's getting all of his swaps. He's being able to keep uptime very high on his targets, but his damage was at 7 million, which is a lot, but I expected to see a little bit more out of him.
Yeah, and perhaps slightly